tunes we're supposed to be learning, or?
Sure.
I also kind of wanted to tell you, like, I feel like my practice regimen has run awry.
Okay.
I don't know how I should reel it in, what things I should be practicing.
Yeah, it's a common thing.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just, just running scales all day.
Okay.
In all the positions.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the extension stuff.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Just the practicing thing. The first thing is, like, when you go to play, are you doing the same things? Like, are you following the same kind of routine at least every time you play, or is it different every time you play?
Sometimes if it's structured, like, I'm like, all right, I have to practice. I'll start with scales to get like the fingers warmed up and whatnot.
Okay.
And then I'll just do like some simple chord progressions, like a 1-4-5 type deal. Try to work on some rhythm.
Okay. Now, is that so like if you're going to work on your scales, are you working on the same scales every time that you go to play, or is it different every time you go to play?
I think it's mostly been just pentatonic.
So mostly pentatonic.
Yeah, so I'll just pick I'll just keep moving it up one fret at a time, but still doing the extensions. So if I'm doing G.
Yep. Okay.
And I just go up and down, and then I just switch up my positions and stuff.
So where would you go? Let's say you're on G. What do you do after that?
I go to probably G sharp, E flat.
Okay, go ahead and play G sharp.
And then just run it back up and down.
Okay. So basically just going up by half step, right? So you're going from G to G sharp, then G sharp to A, and so on. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been trying to just ingrain that. I'm going through it, and it's going to be muscle memory, but in the same sense, I'm also kind of like, all right, well, this is where that G sharp is, or
yeah, kind of know where the notes are and that
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's definitely good. So if you're doing that almost every time, or pretty much every time that you go to practice, that's the first thing that you generally do to start off with.
I like starting off with playing triplets.
Okay. You show me how you do that? You talk about playing triplets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll start off doing something slower and then work my way up to triplets.
Okay.
I would just keep doing that.
Okay. All right.
And usually I'll go for a minute, and then I'm like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll chill out for a second, and then I'll put the metronome on, the timer on.
What happens if if you play with the metronome? Can we put on the metronome and see what happens with that?
Yeah.
So here's the metronome.
I do the
or drum track, just whatever. So here's the metronome.
I've never used a drum track while running scales. That might be something I could try.
Yeah, it might be something to check out.
And then I might just wander a little bit after I run scales a little bit, just
yeah, just improvise.
Yeah, and then I might tease some faster rhythms, slower rhythms.
Well, here's 70. If you're doing triplets, you're doing triplet, 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 triplet. Triplet. Okay, now, so the other thing is, you can set it where we go.
I usually wouldn't start that fast. I usually start a lot slower.
Okay, so we go slower. But here's the other thing. If you go to 60, see on here, there's the quarter note. But you can set it, here's the triplet.
What app is that called?
This is the Tempo app, or also called, I think, Frozen Ape. Metronome app. And so if you set it for the triplet, So what I'm going to do is, yeah, that's your triplet. I'm going to put an accent on each one so you know. So here's where that triplet is. Listen to this triplet for a second. Triplet, 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 da-ga-da, 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 triplet, 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 triplet. That's it. Da-da-da, da-ga-da, da-ga-da, da-ga-da. Triplet, 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 triplet. Yep. Da 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 da. Triplet, 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 triplet. Triplet, 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 triplet. Okay, yeah. So it's better, right? Your timing's better, but without that, see, the thing is, you were playing triplets, but your interpretation of the triplet was not. It was not accurate.
Yeah, I think maybe being able to dial in.
Yeah, this is what we got to do is dial in. Now, there's different ways to do this. Yeah, if you have this app, that's one way to do it. Okay. The other thing would be, let's see if we have a drum track. And what you're looking for is, if you're looking at triplets, if you have a drum track, you want something that's got like a swing feel to it, because that's the triplet.
4/4s, yeah.
Well, even just in 4/4, just like a shuffle or something that's swung. So yeah, that kind of feel. So let's say if we have, let's see here.
Maybe I just need help learning how to. So
that's a funk shuffle, house shuffle. Okay, so let's say if we go to like 70. That's actually 16th notes. Pop swing. Yeah, here we go. So let's try this here. That's swung 8th notes.
yeah.
Okay, now that's another good thing to do. Let me put this in the speaker here. So this is where you have a drum track. Yeah. So when you have a drum track, you'll be able to get maybe the feel a little bit more dialed in.
Try to get in the pocket.
Yeah. So here, let's go over here. All right. So if we have this, here's a swing groove. This is swung 8th notes. A 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. So if you play your scale in swung 8th notes, let's say it's just A minor pentatonic, doesn't really matter. You have right. That's swung. So let's try that. I'm just going to go through the scale in like swung 8th notes. Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So on, right? So that's the swing feel, all right? Now, the swing feel is conducive for the triplet. I'm going to slow it down to 70. We were at 85. So the triplet ends up being triplet, 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 triplet. Let's try that out. 3, 4, so you have. Notice it had. It's not.
Eventually, you'll start like getting ahead.
Shifting, shifting off. It's not easy. It's not easy to do it that way, right? But there's some other. Yeah, it's good. There's some other approaches to take, right? So one would be going from eighth notes to triplets, swung eighth notes to triplets, and there's different ways you can do that. One would be, well, what if I played, a bar of swung eighth notes and then a bar of triplets? That would look like this. So I'd have this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Try that out, okay? I'll count it in. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have. One more time. 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go, and 1. You gotta start with this. You gotta say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Immediately lose it right after that, right into that third bar.
Yeah. Okay. So it's
Getting right back up.
It's difficult. So you gotta take other steps, right? You got to do this. You got to eliminate this because you're trying to do too much when you're trying to do all those rhythms and go between the two and all this stuff. That's too much stuff to deal with. So what you do is you just isolate just the rhythm and just do it on a dead string. I usually do it on the first string or whatever, but basically you could do this. I'm going to go to eighth notes on the first string, and triplets. So we end up with this. 3, 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 triplet. 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 1, 2, 3, 4. even start moving around on any notes, you got to get that rhythm in the pocket first. Because as soon as you start moving around, it's going to make it 10 times harder to maintain a rhythm. So I'll do that. I'll just kind of sit on a string, and I practice rhythms a lot. So I'll sit on a string with that rhythm, and then I'll go, okay, I got that rhythm, then I'll start moving it around. I don't start moving until I know I got the rhythm solid. Okay? So this might take some time, but then going back to applying it to the notes within the scale, we could try that. I wouldn't expect that it would just all of a sudden just happen. You probably have to do that process routinely. That should be in your practice routine routinely, so you develop that, so then you are getting towards moving it around freely, and then ultimately it's coming out in your playing and your improv, so you can just go to those rhythms naturally. You can kind of hit on those. But that's the goal, right? Ultimately, you're trying to get it into your improv so you can play that and do what you want with it. But these are the steps. You got to get the rhythm locked in. Number one, check out some drum tracks. This is called Drum Beats Plus. This app is called. One, yeah. That one. Find some swing grooves in there for triplet stuff. Of course, there's other grooves to look at, and then you just try and get the rhythm locked in on one string before you start moving notes around. All right. The other thing to think about is instead of going up and down the whole scale, that's a lot to take on. So if you reduce that down to maybe a couple strings or maybe 3 strings, then it's a lot more manageable.
Yeah, get the half and whole steps out of them. Just
yeah. Yeah, just keep it to, let's say we keep it to the bread and butter notes, right? First and third finger. So what happens if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Yeah, let's go a little bit slower with that, see what happens here. Let's go about 60. I'll count it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. And
going back and forth on maybe one string.
Okay, try that out. So yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and getting better. Yeah, maybe so one string.
Yeah, it's a pretty new concept of weaving in different rhythms.
Yeah. So this is going to be the hardest part is starting with this. So the key is whenever you're starting something new, you have to keep it as simple as possible, probably even simpler than this. Because you have to look at it and say, I got to keep this really simple because on day 1, that's going to be your hardest day. Day 2, it's going to get a little bit better. Day 3, it's going to get a little bit better. But by day 4, 5, 6, it's going to start to come together. And then you're going to build on top of that. And you have to look at it that way. If you only look at what's happening in your first day of doing it, this is why a lot of people quit or why they don't have their practice structure set, is because they look at what they're doing in that day alone and they go with what they're feeling and what works on that particular day. But you have to look at it in terms of what's going to happen if I do this over 5, 6, 7, 8 days or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 4 months or 5 months or 6 months or 7 months.
Or 10 years.
Or 10 years. Or 10, seriously. You have to see where you're gonna, how you're gonna get from this little simple point, how that's gonna build. You have to have a longer term vision of where you're gonna get.
I'll keep you motivated too.
What's that?
Keep you motivated. I'll see you in a week when I'm running the scale with it and whatnot.
Yeah, well,
but I know I'll take it day by day.
Yeah, you have to take it day by day. Okay, so but you also have to say, look, even the simplest accomplishments are accomplishments, and you're moving forward. You don't want to do something that you struggle with, and there's no measurement of that. Yeah, you can't
you're just struggling.
Yeah,
you're just not really improving.
You're not improving. You're not building on anything. So that's why it's better to keep everything super simple and build, because that's how you will eventually, over time, get to those other things, like being able to run triplets comfortably wherever you are on the fretboard. All right. But the thing is, I can tell that the biggest challenge that people have is their comfortability with playing with either a click, definitely a metronome, or a drum track. Drum tracks are better.
I try to do at least like 10 minutes of metronome work a day.
Okay. So whenever I practice, I do about like 2-3 hours of the metronome. Okay? Because I got it locked in, man. You can take this click, man. Here. This is how much I've spent with the metronome. All right?
You and the metronome are friends.
You gotta be, man. If you want to,
would 15 minutes suffice though to like a day of metronome work?
See, the thing is, once you get it, you just keep it on. You know what I mean? Like if you're only doing 15 minutes, that might mean you're only comfortable for however long. You should be comfortable the entire time, and you should be changing tempos up. You should be changing settings on the metronome and using it all the time, not just for a portion of it. Because anything that you do without it, what I found is mostly anything that I do without it doesn't really work. It doesn't sink in. It doesn't take effect. So I know if I'm going to get the most out of my time, it better be with this thing. Otherwise, it's not going to sink in.
It's all timing.
It's all timing. So here's the thing is you could set the click for, whatever. Let me take these triplets off. Here's 80. Click on the 1. All right. So there's all kinds of stuff that can be done with this, but here's what you got to know about how this works and other things that you can do with the metronome.
That's why I kind of pulled up my version of it, just see if you could give me the
how to set this guy.
Course. Yeah, because it's I know I selected the triplet setting on there.
Yeah.
But I don't know really how to dial in too many.
Yeah.
Rhythms or. Should I be increasing the tempo, or should I just be playing single notes, working up scales, or what?
Yeah, I mean, all that's good, but the problem right here is that this interface kind of sucks.
Does it?
It sucks. I mean, because look, this is why this is the #1 selling metronome on the market. It's super easy to see what's going on here.
Yeah.
You don't have that on that. You don't have these 4 clicks like that. You don't have the option to put an accent on the 1 so you know where that 1 is. Right? You can take that off. Right, but this is just the most visually logical setup.
Like you can hear it.
And you can hear it too.
Tick.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. I would use this one, this app. This is Frozen Ape or Tempo. It's like $2. All right, I would switch. See, that's the other thing about metronomes is the layout's not clear.
User-friendly.
It's not user friendly or clear. Yeah. So that's the first thing you want to do is you want to get. That's why I recommend this one, the Frozen Ape. And there's all kinds of other features on here that are just awesome, dude. There's no better metronome than this metronome. So yeah, you want to get the Frozen Ape one, because you're going to see. So even if you lose track of where you're at when you're playing them with the metronome, even if you lose track, it's, you at least have that visual side of it. So you can turn back and say, I could see where counts 1, 2, 3, and 4 are.
I think that's what I lack, is I get lost in the sauce sometimes, and if I could start working with the metronome and I hear that distinct one,
Yeah.
I'm like, next bar.
Yeah.
Next bar. And it kind of,
Marks it for you.
yeah, because if I'm just playing like a blues to a drum track,
Mm-hmm. You might not know where the one is.
I lose myself all the time. So it would be nice to know
Yeah.
where that one comes in. Then it's ingrained, then eventually it just becomes second nature. You're like, I know exactly in the form where I am. I don't have to consciously think about it.
Right. That's
Well,
what
you
you
probably
want to
still
do.
are consciously thinking of it. It's just, less bother.
Yeah, but you don't. If you're not thinking about it, but you're subconsciously there. That's really the goal.
Is it the ones right
Yep,
here?
that's it. Yep,
Frozen.
yep, that's
Inquiry.
it. Mm-hmm.
Should I pay for it?
Was there a free version? I mean, the free version's probably all you need.
Oh, I don't know. Is that the one you got, the free version?
No, I think I paid $3 for it.
I'll do that.
But yeah, dude, I've been using this thing for 7, 8 years, and I used the clip before that. But this has been my go-to metronome.
And a lot of things you can just plug in and play through a speaker, and then so you don't have to really hear it off your phone. You can just plug it in like a speaker.
Yeah, you can do that. Okay. So, first of all, you need a metronome that you can see and make sense. That's number one. All right. Second, you got to get comfortable with just, sitting on top of the click. Right? So that might mean just playing quarter notes, man, just on each click. You can take a scale. Let's take that pentatonic scale. And like we bump this down to like 70. Right? So dude, forget about all that stuff. You got to be able to just hit those clicks, right? So you just got to be, yeah, as babyish as this seems. You got to get that feel of dropping in on those clicks. Whatever you do, you just got to get the foundation of dropping in on those downbeats first. And you're going to benefit immensely just from that. All right? There's a lot of good things you can gain from that. So let's say you take the extended pentatonic scale. If we're talking about A minor, and how there's different ways to play it, right? But we're just kind of finding a way that we can play it the same way together. So if we're going like this way, that's kind of the idea. Something like that. Up here. The highest it can go. I'll follow you. Doesn't really matter.
Okay. I usually slide up to that now. For some reason, I don't know why. I think it's just because I like to visualize.
That's fine. Yeah.
That's you can.
Right. That's cool. So just so we can play it together, where are we going here? Yep. 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 Sweet. Gotcha. So no swing, but just on clicks now with that.
Okay.
That's how slow we're going. So here we go. So you. I know the root's here. That's the root right there. Yeah. So I'm gonna end there. Okay, so that's definitely stuff that you can build on. Let's do it in a different key. We did it in A minor. Let's do it in a different key.
B.
Okay, so
Maybe
we're going
the whole
to
step.
B minor. All right, here we go. 2, 3, 4. So we're at 70 now, right? Let's go to about 77 and do one more key.
Shift it down. G.
Okay, so G. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's 77. Let's try one more key, and I'm bumping this up to I'll go to 85 here. So usually when you increase, you got to do a certain number of reps at a tempo. So we started at 70, and we did probably about 8 times on A minor. We did 4 times on B minor at 70. Then we went to G minor, and I bumped it up to 77, and that was consistently accurate. And then you can stay there or bump it up again. And this is how you're going to get speed as well. So we're at 77. We're going to go to 85.
Go up in little increments.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the other thing about the click. You don't even have to play different rhythms right now. You're just building a foundation with the quarter notes, but you can still increase the tempo. And that is going to translate into a lot of things. Like one, if you want to go from quarter notes to eighth notes, you're basically just times in 2. Right? That's all you're doing.
Yeah, so if you're at 50, all you're doing is sitting at 100 is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So if we end up playing this at 120, to play eighth notes means you're just at 60.
Yeah.
So you're already
playing quarter notes.
playing if we're playing quarter notes at 120, you can play the eighth notes at 60. So you're already doing that already by just increasing the speed. Make sense? Okay, so let's do one more key.
Let's do C.
All right, C minor. I got it in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, and you just got to be patient with that too, but you're going to be able to quantify your level this way.
Progress. Through tempo. Yeah.
Through tempo. Yeah.
Beats per minute.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to know, now you have a way to see where you're at with it.
Doing all those crazy legato runs.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the other thing is, in order to do that, you have to have a pathway for where everything's going to happen. And you need to do all that slow first. So if you're doing shifting or sliding, when you go slow like this, then you're going to say, I see where I got to do the shifts. So when you want to do something fast, you already have all that worked out. You know what I mean? You already have the vision of where it lays, and you already have the mechanics of where it is. And then you're just gradually increasing it. So when you want to go faster, all those pieces are in working order. You can't play fast if you don't have control of what you're doing or see where you're going. It's like driving a car with driving a car at 120 miles an hour and not knowing what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're just going to crash.
A 5-year-old going like 170.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good way to start. And this way now it's like more structured. So after you've kind of killed yourself with the monotony of this, I mean, you have to kind of find a groove. I shouldn't use that word. You have to kind of find a zone where all this is comfortable and you're just kind of it's not mundane, it's not boring, and you're just kind of letting it all sink in.
Yeah, just have enough level of obsessiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Drive it.
And also keep in mind that where your goal is with this or where it's leading to. See, that's another thing that...
Look at the big picture.
Look at the big picture, yeah, because that's another thing that...
3 hours of
3 hours, yeah, but that's the thing that keeps me focused on it, because I say, if I keep doing this, I know that in X amount of time, whether it's weeks or months or even years, that it's going to get there. And that's what keeps me motivated to continue to do it that way. A lot of people get burned out on that day, like, man, I can't hang with this is too much. Well, if it is, just break it up, just stop. Do 5 minutes, do 10 minutes, stop, and come back into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The idea would be if you can keep it going, I don't want to stop if I got a flow going on. I want to keep it going 30 minutes, 45 minutes. An hour.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to stop if I get a flow going.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of once, because all my practice is going to be within, 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes are just going to take up that, and then I'll practice like some tunes or some songs playing along the recordings.
Yep.
But yeah, I could see like if I hit 15 minutes, after a while I'm like, all right, this might be the tip of the iceberg. I'm just locking things down.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to monitor that for yourself. I mean, also by doing it this way, see, your focus is a muscle in itself. Right? When we first do it, it's probably the hardest to do, and it's hard to maintain that focus because it exerts a lot of our mental energy to have to do it this way. And a lot of us get burned out. Like we reach a threshold, we're just like, we can't, that's it. But the more you do it that way, the more it starts up. And then it's like, well, how do you fill 3-4 hours of practice? What are you going to do? How do you do that? Right? One, your focus has to be really high to be able to fill that time and make it productive.
Adderall and caffeine.
So, yeah, well, I mean, there's that, you know.
I like a cup of coffee when I run scales.
Yeah, so something to keep you, like, you know, awake or whatnot. But at the same time, your focus has to be really high. And you have to know how to fill your time in 3 or 4 hours where you can actually fill it that way. And when you think of it that way, there's a lot of things that you can do. So, yeah, after you've kind of run through this, then it's like really it's application phase at this point. You know what I mean? You've kind of run through the scales, and now you got to start using it so that you're seeing what translates from your practice into what you want to play. So that might mean you're just improvising. It's good if you can do that with a click, but you could do that with a track or something, just something that you can start applying it to.
Yeah. I try to I do like a roaming type deal where I'll just have the scale, but I'm not allowed to stop really, and I can stop to leave musical space, but like I just keep going, keep running, finding little things. You know, I might go below the scale if I'm on like the then I go, there's that C note. Or what if I want to play that up an octave? Ooh.
Right, so you can move it over there.
Yeah, okay. I just kind of, I like to roam.
Yep.
For like just like 5 minutes on like a drum track.
All right, let's try some of that. If we have a drum track.
I just feel like something's missing in my practice, and that I know you've told me most of this stuff beforehand. I just think I'm going about it in the wrong ways. Maybe, I think it might be the tools too, because I kind of don't know really how to work with a metronome. So like if I put a click on, you can put a click on it and just play whatever. I feel like that's what I was doing. It was kind of like aimless. Yeah. And I need to ring it in a little bit.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where a lot of people struggle when they first start, is knowing how to use a metronome. So step one right now, we talked about some other strategies to do it with playing swing eighth notes or playing triplets or using a drum track, and those are all good, but you also probably want to start with the quarter note on the click, because you got to feel that first. If you can't feel that, none of that other stuff is actually going to fit in, because you can't feel the main beat. And you can get a lot out of that if you play things on the click. It's going to be really simple rhythmically, but you can also increase the speed, and that's gradually going to allow you to move to those other rhythms. And also have a foundation. If you know where 1, 2, 3, and 4 are very solid, then you'll be able to put triplets in there. You'll be able to put 16ths or syncopated rhythms or things like that. Because if you don't have reference points for those things, you're just never going to happen. It's never going to get in there. Okay, so that's where you're trying to get to. All right. Now there's a ton of stuff of that what you can get into, but let's say we're just gonna, we ran through C minor. Now you're gonna just start applying it. Okay. So we're gonna bring up like a drum track for that. What did I have here? There's pop swing. Yeah, let's just do like a simple kind of like slow groove, right? So let's say, kind of think of slow dancing in a burning room. Something like that would be fine. All right, so I'm just going to play that. And then just going to use the scale across. Let's see how it goes. 3, 4. Yeah, so the same way that you get into that mode where now it's grooving, things are just, you're feeling it now. That's the hard part, but that's where you're trying to get to with the click too. See, that's the thing about the click is what makes it difficult, why people don't want to use it, because they can't feel it. But if you can get that point where you can feel it with the click the same way, then that's where it's really powerful.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so that's the application phase. After you run through it, then you want to apply it. So either you're going to have to do that with a track, a backing track on YouTube or something like that, you know, or you're going to have to try it. This is another more advanced level, but to just bring up a drum track or a click and just play off of that and see if you can just feel the groove. Don't even think about chords or anything else underneath what would be there. Just try and feel it out. Third option would be if you have a looper, you know, something like that, lay down a chord progression that you like, lay that down, and then play over that. Definitely helps if you have a looper if it has a drum beat built in. I used to have the Boss loopers and the multi-board that had different drum beats, so I could lay all that stuff down and have all that groove stuff going on. So that was definitely an advantage over, like, for example, the Ditto pedal, which I'm not a big fan of because there's no time factor. It's all dependent on you. And, you know, you can do that. You can lay down the chords if your rhythm's solid with that. But
if your rhythm's not.
If your rhythm's not solid, yeah, it makes it more difficult.
I can't tell you how many times I made a loop, and I'm like, thought that would sound a lot better.
Yeah.
And it's completely out of time.
And
then eventually I'll pull up like a drum track, and I'll play along with that drum track, knowing where the changes are coming up, and then I'll slap it down, and I'm like, oh, that sounds way better.
Yeah.
But it's because I have this other outside factor that's helping me with my timing rhythmically.
Right, I agree. I mean, the other thing about this with the loopers is, you know, you're probably running the loop out of the same amp that you're playing out of. I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but that's weird, man, because you're hearing the same guitar that you recorded, and now you're playing over top of it, and they kind of start blending together, and they're not separated very well. When you have a drum track, it's like, there it is right there. You're definitely going to hear that drum track coming through the amp. So this is why I think people struggle with the loops, is because they're running it through the same amp that their guitar is coming out of, and the sound is just weird coming out of it. It's better if you split it or have a drum track. Or, you know, this is the thing, is if you use the metronome, let's go back to that for a second. If you take a chord progression that you like, you know, if I was taking the chord progression I was just playing, or let's take a chord progression that you like. So the G.
Oh, I don't know, I was just vamping some, but...
well, here's the other thing is,
yeah,
what do you think? Think of a chord progression that you like to solo over. Okay, so yeah.
It's in B major.
It's in B minor.
B minor.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's the thing: is
D major.
D major is the same thing.
Yeah.
If I took that with a click, we just have. This is faster than where you're playing. I'm gonna play it back down like 75, 76. So we have. Yeah, so you also got to decide how long is each chord, too.
Yeah, right.
Right? Different ways to do it, but play through. I'll interpret what you're playing, and we'll kind of format it that way.
Okay.
So just play it first so I can see what you're doing, and then.
I don't know what I'm doing. It sounds
So you
awful.
need a structure behind that too.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, don't vary it up too much. Just keep it simple.
Just one to two chords.
Yeah, just make it, you know, make it just a short phrase. Just, yeah. laid that down. You laid that down in your looper. All right. I'm gonna be like the looper. I'm just gonna play that. So now you gotta play a solo over that.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's another approach you take. So start thinking about chord progressions, because that's what you're going to be soloing over for the most part, unless it's a riff. There's two things that you're going to generally solo over. It's going to be either a moving chord progression, repeated chord progression, or it's going to be some kind of riff that repeats. Those are the two things that you're going to solo over. So think about chord progressions as you're practicing your soloing. You have a looper, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so think of a chord progression and treat it like this, simplify it. Also, you can practice your chords with the click too, because your rhythm guitar playing's got to be solid too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then now you're starting to combine the two. You say, well, here's this chord progression, here's this simple, I'm working on my rhythm. Let me lay down the loop. Now let's see what happens if I solo over it. Now you're going to learn about how to approach the solo against the chords.
Yeah, what you want to target.
Yeah, what works that way.
You want to hit that A.
Yeah.
They don't hit the A.
Right. So now it's going to help your soloing, because now you have a structure or a format that you're soloing against, and that determines how you go about it. So then that starts to go, okay, well, if I have to play over this, I have to take this approach. So you're trying to create, with this, you're trying to create scenarios. You're trying to create musical scenarios, so you know what's going to happen when you get into that musical scenario in a real situation. It's like the same thing about playing like a scrimmage or whatever, in any sport. You're trying to recreate what's going to happen in that game. So when you get into the game, you're like, I know what to do, and it just happens. Same thing musically. You got to create chord progressions or things that you're going to think about playing over. And then you start thinking about, well, okay, here's what's going to happen if I have to do that. You start creating scenarios and thinking of it that way. Then your ideas start growing with your practice time, because now you're thinking about what I'm going to do in those situations. And then you're going to say, okay, that works in this situation. That didn't work so well, so I have to go retweak that for whatever that is. And that's how the cycle perpetuates itself. Then if you don't do all those things, like you need the mechanics to start with for your scale so you can operate. You need your rhythm solid so you can operate. Then you start creating scenarios, so when you're in that situation live, you're like, boom, I know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay?
So, yeah, I'm not lost.
Yeah, so you're not lost, man.
Headlights.
Yeah, every time you're in a musical situation and something happens that you didn't know what to do with, you want to make note of that.
Yeah.
What happened that I didn't know what to do? Now I got to look into that and say, what was that? How do I know what that's about? Create a scenario where that is, and work on things that allow you to know what's going on in musical situations. And that's how you perpetuate your practice. And that's how you get progress. Yeah. All right. A lot of facets to it. Okay. But yeah, it was a good run through. Hopefully that structures things, keeps everything kind of organized for you.